everyone. Borderlands is out in theaters, and I went to see it with my friend and fellow reviewer, Sarah G Vincent, who is a great writer, by the way. You should definitely check out her work. Hey, Sarah.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be so much fun.
It is.
All right, so let's get into it. So, Borderlands is based on the well loved and best selling video game that neither Sarah nor I have ever played. So, we thought we might actually be the perfect audience for this film, coming into it blank to see what this group of misfits were actually like as they sought to save a young girl, find a vault, and keep the villain, Atlas, from accessing some crazy wild powers. So, to get started, I thought, let's talk about hot takes on this film. So, Sarah, let's start with you. What was your hot take on Borderlands, kind of in a nutshell? What was your impression?
So normally when I see a movie and I don't like it, I can usually find like something redeeming about it. And it wasn't so bad that it was good. It was just more like disappointing because normally, even if you like really love an actor and there are a lot of great actors, it's a great ensemble, you would say, well, but it's worth it because we love Cate Blanchett. And I would say this is one of the few movies I would say, if you love the cast, do them a favor and don't see it.
Yeah, that is a great hot take because it was just bad. It was just a bad movie, you know? There's
And
nothing
we wanted to love it. We were like, let's go. But
yeah, it's funny when we went into the theater, we were actually thinking this might end up being like one of those cult classics where it's so bad that it's good. It was just so bad that it was bad.
yeah, I was sort of hoping for another like Ultraviolet, another movie where everyone was kind of crapping on it, but it's still good. And I was like, no, this is accurate. I did see one person in the audience. We were at a regular movie theater, Alamo, and one person was getting their life and like
Yeah,
fist pumping. They were loving it, but everybody else, there was a laugh here and there, but it didn't have a lot of energy.
yeah. It's funny while we were watching it, I had this distinct impression of I kept thinking about that movie Fall Guy that came out earlier this year. That all right, I'm a child of the 80s. I love the 80s. So I actually really enjoyed the Fall Guy, but the whole premise behind that were, was the, stunt people and the crew that put on this production for like what was maybe like a really bad or odd or weird science fiction film. And the whole time I'm watching Borderlands, I'm thinking, this is like the movie that they were filming in the Fall Guy.
That is like the perfect analogy. That is it's and except it's worse because there's no Jason Momoa.
Oh, true. Everything's better with Jason Momoa. I love that guy. So, characters talking about Jason Momoa, who's not in this movie, whom we both love. You mentioned Cate Blanchett earlier, and I actually love her. She's such a talented actress. And I was really struck by the fact that she didn't do a good job in this film. And I kept trying to figure out why. Like, she's too good to be bad when it comes
Right.
to something like this. So, was it the directing?
So
What
the
was it?
background on this movie, it's really a weird story, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but in this movie was made before Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. So it's been on the shelf for years. It sounds like Eli Roth had like started filming in 2021. There was a finished product in 2022. The studios didn't have confidence in it. So they decided to get Tim Miller, who directed Deadpool and Terminator Dark Fate, which, Deadpool, yes, Terminator Dark Fate, okay. But like, they decided to have him do reshoots, re-edit it, and brought on another like sort of ghostwriter. I don't remember his name. One of the original writers of this script basically was like, I don't want to be associated with it. So there was another co-writer, Joe Abercrombie, who worked with Eli Roth and Craig Mazin. And then when all of this happened, Craig was like, deuces, I'm out. I don't want to be associated with this. So that wasn't a good sign. And then there was a composer who I don't remember his name, but there was originally a different composer, Nathan Barr, I believe, and he usually works with Eli Roth in like Cabin Fever, Hostel Part Two, and the movie was so changed that Steve Jablonsky was put on to create with the re-edited version a new soundtrack. So this might not be any one person's fault. Everyone might have done like a good job here, a good job there, and I'm not actually going to blame any individual person. I think at the end of the day, the studio kind of sabotaged themselves.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And what you said actually feels like exactly what must have happened. And it goes back to, my MFA days when we would do workshops. And you write a short story or a novel or whatever it is you're writing, and you have 12 people around the table giving you a hot take on your work. And then if you try to incorporate everyone's idea into that story, it becomes just a hot mess and usually not that great of a story because it takes out your voice. It drowns out some of the characters. It takes away the kind of that driving force of the story and makes it feel a little more vanilla and watered down. So you have to pick like one or two people to really count on to infuse that creative editorial spirit into the film. And it really did feel like they brought a soup bowl and like everybody threw in like, here's a tomato, here's a stone, here's a cup of juice. I don't know. Like, and suddenly it's like just a mad mess. Like,
someone put in Drano because it was poison. It was box office poison. It's doing horribly. And we actually were playing this really interesting game after the movie of like better things that everyone was doing. So Cate Blanchett did Tar after this, which we all know was like amazing. So it's obviously not Cate Blanchett, right? And then like Eli Roth did Thanksgiving after this. So I'm not a big fan of Eli Roth's work, but it shows that it's not entirely him either. So I think you have a lot of like really talented people who just weren't allowed to do what they do for a living.
yeah. And, that's a really good point because you even have Ariana Greenblatt, who was in Barbie and was amazing as the daughter in Barbie. And I mean, in this film, she was just an annoying little, like you wanted to push her.
Not cute, annoying. And also like they just had her character do like weird beats. Like 1 minute she'd be trying to kill somebody and then she'd really love that person like 2 seconds later. There was never like any moment where then like it was just dreadful, honestly.
Yeah. I do feel like there was definitely a problem with the character direction. And, even more to that point, like when you look at the technology, if you look at Cate Blanchett, you can see the problem with the technology. Cate Blanchett is a beautiful woman. She is an older woman, and all of the other older women were clear, like visibly her same age on screen, and yet they were talking as if they were peers to her mother. And whenever that would happen, it would break me out of that contract that the audience has with the film, that you will give them the benefit of the doubt. You'll just go along with the story. But there were so many moments like that where you would see her and she would look as old as Jamie Lee Curtis when she was clearly supposed to be in her 20s or even late, middle 30s, in that kind of age range. And it just felt wrong. It felt like they didn't get the characters right. And then they CGI'd the heck out of her to try to make her
Really
fit.
CGI'd her a lot and not in a good way. Like it was really kind of amateurish CGI. Like I want some people from YouTube to like get on board and like help her out because I've seen better stuff there. The CGI wasn't awful. It wasn't the worst I've seen, but yeah, facially and like all the special effects that they were doing of her, it made her look a little harder than usual. And I don't blame her for that because she's fabulous. And, we all love an older actor, on film, especially when it's a woman. So I know it's not that. It did not do anyone any favors in that movie.
No, they really, really did not. And you're right about Eli Roth. He's also not my favorite director. I mean, he's not the worst director, but he's just not someone I actively go look for a film from. But I always love giving people a chance. And I'll admit, with the trailers on this one and having not been familiar with the game or any of the franchise at all, I was like, all right, I'm going to give this show a try because there's something about it that felt like maybe it could be fun and maybe it'll be a lot funner in the theater than what people are anticipating. What did you think when you saw that trailer? Did it give you a bit of hope for like a fun, crazy film, or what did you think about
So,
that?
I mean, the talent had me because I love Jamie Lee Curtis. Like,
Yeah.
I'll watch her in anything and in any genre, like whatever it is. Like, what do you want to do, Jamie? We're just here for the ride. And so I was like really excited for Jamie Lee Curtis, and she made no impression, which is shocking. Like, she's
Yeah.
like love her or hate her, she makes a very strong impression, and she's kind of forgettable in a majority of the film. And there was like this weird beat where she was sort of like this sort of very, she describes her character as autistic, which I think tracks, but I think that they kind of lost the thread of the character, not her. She seemed to have like an idea. So that was also maybe a problem. I feel like the people who were working on the movie, actually working on the movie, did actually have a story in their head. But when you watch even the previews or you're watching the movie, you can see where it began to shift on like how they were going to market the movie, what the story arc was going to be. It seemed like it was going to be more of a heist movie, and they were going to really lean into. So like just for the viewers at home who are watching this, Borderlands is about, these people. It's a sort of like alternate fantasy sci-fi movie, and they're so like human technology is influenced by the Iridians, an extinct alien civilization. There are legends that there is a vault, and that this vault has some really cool technology, and there are all these corporations that would love to get their hands on it, and the one corporation we have is Atlas. So the whole tension of the movie is, so from the preview, seemed like they were going to have that as the central focus, and it seems like when they redid the movie, it shifted to, we have to save this little girl, the Ariana Greenblatt character, who was Tiny Tina, which I kept on, and when I was writing the review, calling Tiny Tim, and I was like, no, very different character. And so it really did feel like a shift, and so I do feel like all the actors had one thing in mind, and Jamie Lee Curtis tracked. But it felt like when they redid the movie, they were like, okay, maybe she's not going to be as clinical and cold, and maybe she's going to have a heart. And it was sort of like very uneven in the way that it was executed.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis is one of my favorite actresses of all times. And I was talking with someone about the film last night, and I literally could not remember she was in it. And that to me is a problem. Like, if you
Malpractice.
have,
Malpractice.
yeah, like you don't have one of the best actresses in the business and then forget she's in the movie. Like, it was bizarre. I was like, I, I'm
Literal, I
at a loss.
do
I'm
that.
rarely at a loss for words. I'm really,
Now there is one person who did shine through despite the crappy execution.
yeah, yeah.
Edgar Ramírez. Plot
He-
twist. He's the villain in the movie. He's the corporate head. And actually, he brought out the best scenes with Cate Blanchett. Like, she was on her game in every scene with him. And he was actually the best actor in the bunch.
You know, I have to agree with you on that. When he was on screen as Atlas, he like leaned into just, he really was the bad guy and he enjoyed being the bad guy. And he didn't pretend to be anything other than that. And when he was on screen and the other characters, especially like you said, Cate Blanchett, were interacting with him, I think they had something real to hold on to. And we saw that on screen. So that's a good call, Sarah. Good call.
And he was really good because he brought the technology part of it. Like, it's easy to forget while you're, this sounds weird, but it's easy to forget when you're watching the story what the point is. So many like pointless chase scenes and fight scenes. And I love a good fight scene. So if the fight scenes were good, I probably would have been mollified. But
Yeah.
when he comes on board, you kind of remember what we're all here for, because his use of technology, his greed for it, his sort of like carelessness with human life and no regard for it. Real, like, he just did all of that in just like simple, like there's this one moment where he's using a laser cannon, and he just, even his hand, that's always how I know an actor's good, how they use their hands. And even
Yep.
the use of his hands, I was like, God, this guy's really good. We're like in Ben Mendelsohn territory here. Like, he was a very big surprise. I didn't even know his name going in.
Yeah, I didn't either. I just was like, oh, that Atlas guy is good. You know, and I also did like Kevin Hart. He had some ups and downs in the film as well. I think he played Roland. And there were some moments where I was like, meh, he's acting like everybody else at this point. But there were also some moments where he leaned into his character and I felt like he was starting to connect with his character a lot. But then in the next scene, maybe he wasn't. And so I think that just goes to the unevenness of it and how they maybe filmed things out of order. Maybe they didn't get the cast connected like they should have right up front. But it did start to feel like in some moments they were either confused about what they were doing or they were phoning it in, or the directing was like, hey, just play it way over the top and we're just going to go way over the top with this one. And it didn't work out. Like overall, it just didn't work out until you got someone like Edgar Ramírez on the screen, and then the other actors just naturally like connected with him in that way. So
In many ways, he was kind of the star of the film, although he only appears for 5 minutes. So there's about like 5 really good minutes, everyone, in Borderlands, and it's only Edgar Ramirez that scenes. Good
there's
luck.
five.
Don't watch this movie.
You heard it here first. There's like 5 good minutes in that 2 hour film. So get ready for it. But you know, that actually does get me to a thought. When I was trying to figure out like how would I recommend this film to someone, which is always like the whole point of doing a movie review is how would you recommend a film to someone? I actually think there are two reasons to see it. One is you kind of want to be part of the group of people who saw it in the theater, and you could be like, "Oh yeah, I totally saw that in theater." Because it is an experience, and it's in its way. And then the other thing is, I actually have this very sneaky feeling that the film will be better when it's streamed. And when you're watching it from home and you've got five other things happening, like maybe you're washing the dishes and the movie is on, like when you're just sitting in the theater and it is taking up the whole space around your mind, it leaves way too much room for your mind to find all the cracks and all the problems. But if you're watching it from home and the dog's running around and you're eating chips and you're going to get a soda or whatever it is, and you're watching it on your smaller screen so you won't see as many of the problems, I think it'll actually be a better experience when you're streaming it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, yeah, as companion noise TV, where you don't really want to watch it and you're doing something, but you need like company, that might work.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're right
we're,
over.
we're really selling it, aren't we,
Yeah,
Sarah?
we're like, this is the best movie ever.
It's the best bad movie I've seen in a long time. So I think we're just about at time, though. But Sarah, any last thoughts on the film? Is there anything we haven't touched on that, you thought like, we really need to mention this?
My takeaway would be the key to making, I think, any adaptation, whether it be a video game, a book, whatever, is you have to sort of decide, are you making it approachable for people who have never played it or touched the source material, or are you making it for the hardcore fans? And it didn't do it for as someone who didn't know anything about the movie, it wasn't even something that I thought was an interesting standalone story for me. So like I'm walking away from this with no sense of the video game,
Right.
but I also as a movie without even if I didn't know that it was a video game, I didn't think, oh, this is a really interesting story. I really want to learn more about it. So I feel like it could have been a success if they had just like chosen a lane, and I don't think they did. And unfortunately, that means it's just not a good movie standalone, period. Because they didn't even make it accessible to people to be like as a commercial, an infomercial, like a 1 hour, 44 minute like infomercial to people who might be interested in the video. I'm like, don't you want to buy the video game now? No, not really. Like, I'm good. Thank you. I don't have any sense of how the video game works.
Yeah, I don't want to buy the video game. I don't want to read the comics. I don't want to do, like they didn't sell it. And I do think they probably, as you said, they had this thing on the shelf for a while. If they would have released it during the pandemic, I have a feeling people would have enjoyed it because people were so starved for entertainment that they would have just eaten it up and been like, well, that wasn't the best movie, but it was something. Yay, we did something. But they waited way too long and they had to realize a profit, or at least recoup some losses, if not a profit. And I mean, that's how they treated it. And I think that's a problem with a lot of Hollywood right now, is they're just trying to recoup profits at this point or recoup expenses, whatever the word is. And I think that's not the way to make a movie. I think people are tired of remakes and reimaginings and tens or part prequels to these stories that we've seen a million times, just a million times. So,
I
yeah,
agree. I mean, and at least give us a kick-ass woman, and we really they tried, but it was very generic. And but
yeah,
by the time we finally got her, it was very CGI lead in, and it was hard to sort of like it was. There is a point where Cate Blanchett becomes feels more badass than like wrote and interchangeable with other badass characters. But by then, you're kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? It's over.
yeah. I mean, you can't even complain that she's a girl boss because she's not. It's not. It's just not. Like it's just not, Sarah. It's just
No,
not.
see
That's my
ultraviolet.
recommendation. It's just not.
See ultraviolet instead if you want a good bad movie. Mila
Exactly.
Jovovich is our queen.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And Sarah, thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you
It
so
was
much
so
for
much fun to
inviting
see
me.
Borderlands with you.
More movies, more movies.
Yes, more movies, more movies. And to all of you guys out in the audience, definitely let us know what you thought. Did you see it yet? What did you think, good or bad? Drop us a comment. Tell us what you hated or loved about it or what you thought could have been different. Because that's the whole point of these reviews is to actually talk about them and get that community spirit going. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you again soon. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more. And I'll see you. Bye.
Bye.